Welcome back, everyone, to the A.D.D show, where we're not always right, but we're never wrong. As always, I'm Mark.
And I'm Hans, and welcome back, everybody. This is 3 weeks in a row we've recorded weekly, so we're on a kick now. Don't have anybody with us this week, so me and Mark, we're just getting on. We don't really have a whole lot, like a topic board for this week. We're just going to kind of just talk a little bit about some stuff that's been happening, but we don't really have anything crazy happening. So, Mark, how you going?
I'm good. So, I got a question for you that I'm going to spring on you. And obviously, since Christian said we don't really have topics, but it just popped into my head. So the wide receiver market has gone nuts.
Yeah.
Some people have signed extensions. You've got Adams, Hill, and Diggs all signing huge extensions. I think Godwin sort of, what is he, $20 million a year?
He's like a 3-year deal, though, wasn't it?
3-year deal for, and then you've got Hopkins making over 20, like close to 24. But the new deals, they're getting bigger and bigger. So there's that next crop of players on the last year of their contracts. You've got DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown. There's a couple others in there that I can all of a sudden just blank on. But out of those players, like say A.J. Brown, you can even throw in Justin Jefferson. You could throw in T. Higgins. You can throw in any number of the young wide receivers.
Lamb. CeeDee Lamb was the same
Waddle,
draft as Jefferson.
Even Waddle, Chase, Smith. Or who's the kid from L.A.? Not L.A., Las Vegas.
Wide receiver?
Yeah. Devontae Adams, but who was their big guy that they had last year besides Waller?
It's not Judy.
Who I know who
I know
I'm
him. I always
okay.
get him mixed up. Not Ruggs, but I know who you're talking about.
Judy's in there.
Yep.
Okay. So my question to you is like, say the big two, DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, are they on their teams to start the season?
What, this season coming up?
Yep. Are they on their teams to start the season?
A.J. Brown is.
A.J. Brown is?
In my opinion, because I haven't heard anything about them trading him versus I've heard DK Metcalf's name thrown around.
Okay.
Unless I've missed out the last few weeks of sports news. But
the Titans are saying they're not trading him.
Yeah.
But everybody's calling for him. There's, these players and these contracts that are being signed. So I think A.J. Brown is signed to a deal, but I don't think it's this year. I think this year they make him play out his contract.
He's got 1 year left, so yeah.
But I feel like with the injuries he's had, he's really got to prove he can stay healthy if he's going to get that contract from the Titans.
Yeah.
So the Titans are playing a game here that I don't particularly think is
it's going to be a Gallup situation. It's going to be a situation like that. You spend a lot of games injured, but you're paying for the hopeful quotation upside. But do the Titans want to pay for that? But without him, they have no wide receivers. All they have is Derrick Henry, and they still probably think they're a playoff Super Bowl contending.
Who did they just trade? They got Robert Woods. They just traded.
I know,
for Robert Woods.
but you still need two. You can't let him go. When you draft, I think he's somebody you need to keep because they're still a playoff team. Whereas I think someone like Seattle with DK, you can afford to trade him because you are a rebuild team now. You might as well just come out and say it. You're rebuilding. And that's the only player on your roster, and there's other players I probably can't think of right now, but like that. Maybe Chris Carson, but that actually has a valuable trade market right now. And I'm not saying anybody wants Chris Carson because running back is very weird in the trade market. But he's still a valuable piece. But DK Metcalf would be a starter on a few teams right now if they offered it.
Every team.
Well, I mean wide receiver 1. He wouldn't be a wide receiver 1 on every team. At least a 2. Some teams he'd be a 1. Ravens he'd be a 1. Eagles he'd be a 1. Stuff like that.
But I don't know if I don't know if it's, I just don't know. You have to. The thing is you have to trade him to a team that has the capital too. Mm-hmm. And I read an article, a Bengals article the other day, that they said they have to start saving money now for Chase.
Yeah.
Which scares me because you've got to save money for Burrow first.
Yep.
The quarterback's harder to fill than a wide receiver.
Oh yeah.
But my thing is the Bengals have 2 top 25 wide receivers, top 30 wide receivers on their team. And they're both under contract. But the thing with T. Higgins is T. Higgins was a second-round pick.
Yeah.
There's no fifth-year option. So you pay him after that. You have to pay him after this year.
Yeah.
You don't go into the fourth year, and I don't think you franchise a wide receiver, especially with the way the money is going for wide receivers now.
I don't think you finish this upcoming season with all three of those wide receivers on your team. I think one won't be there. I don't think you extend the offer that Higgins is going to want. I think he's going to pull who I'm trying to compare a name of someone who is a wide receiver to. Let's use a Gallup, for example, a Michael Gallup, because he's the first one on top of my head.
But he wasn't a wide receiver 2. He was barely a wide receiver 3.
But that's what I'm saying. But he's going to want he's going to want that Christian Kirk type thing where a team will overpay you for him and he'll leave and then be subpar forever. Does that make sense? Jarvis Landry, like you're going to get that situation where you're going to want him and you're going to be like, hey, T. Higgins, like you're really great. We love you. You're viable. How about $10 million a year? He's like, do you mean like 25 like the Ravens just offered? Like that's the thing. You want to think, and I do this all the time, you want to think the dudes on your team are team-friendly dudes. But at the same time, Chase is your top priority. You have to get Joe Burrow re-signed, and it might come to the next 2 or 3 years that T. Higgins is the one walking. He is the lone man left out right now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, but
I know what you're
trade
saying.
value, like you gotta, that's the thing. Like, do you trade? Like, what do you get for a DK?
I think if you're so I put it this way, Houston has been talking about trading Brandon Cooks, which I think is not a horrible idea for them. Most teams that I've heard has offered a third-round pick. Almost every team has offered one. They want 2 picks or a second. I think a second is a bit of a stretch for him. However, he does have, like we've talked about, Mike Evans-ish numbers over the last few years. He's quietly being slept on. If he's getting a second, DK's got to be worth a first.
Why?
But that's not, but what I'm saying is the skill tree that the media is claiming it to be. I'm not saying I would pay a first for DK, but the way DCAF is, the way he's flashy, the way he puts up the numbers he does, no one pays attention to Cooks. When honestly, Cooks sometimes is a better wide receiver. Does that make sense? If he gets a second, DK is going to say I'm worth a high second, or Seattle will. They're going to put a first-round pick on him. At least I guarantee it.
I think the only reason why DK they would put a first-round thing on it is because he was a first-round pick.
I think that changes.
But
and
not
plus,
because
he's also only 24, and Brandon Cooks is 29. That's a big difference too.
Well, no, I'm not talking compared to Cooks. I'm just talking, why would a team give up a first for a player on the last year of his contract that you're going to have to pay out the nose for? Like, you can't. I just see the wide receiver market. I don't see many teams going there. Like,
I think what's going to happen is either he's going to be on the roster or they're going to settle nowhere near like Amari Cooper's was, but they're going to settle for a couple third, fourth round picks probably. And that's the thing that I've read today that Dallas offered for Brandon Cooks. They offered a third and a late fifth, and they said no to them so far. These are the offers they want. Let them.
When he signed the extension, I thought it would have made it easier for him to get traded.
Yeah.
It's actually harder now because he's. I mean, if you trade for Brandon Cooks, you might as well have just kept Amari Cooper because it's the same money.
So that's the thing.
It's the same money. That's the problem. And so I said initially that it makes him more tradable now. Easier to trade. It's actually different because he signed the extension, but it's $20 million a year.
Yeah. The only teams you're going to see pulling that off are teams with still a lot of cap space who still need a wide receiver. And I know this sounds silly, but if you're thinking about what they just signed and stuff like that, still with over $20 million in cap space, if you're the Jaguars, man.
No. Jaguars have been throwing darts at players. No. You don't give up the draft capital. Like a young team like that, you don't give up the draft capital.
Well, I understand. But so kind of my point is DK Metcalf is going to get some sort of market value if they choose to trade him. Brandon Cooks, by signing the extension, has just hurt himself in the trade market because his dead cap goes from $2 million or $3 million like it was to something, or 10. Now it's like over in the 20s, and it's just not, in my opinion, if Brandon Cooks gets traded for a third-round pick, from what I know, I'm not saying they said no, but Dallas, as of till they extended this guy, Houston, extended Cooks, was a third-round pick and the last one in the fifth. We have 5 fifth-round picks. And that was a rejected offer compared to everybody else. So let's say he goes for a third and 2 fifths from somebody. DK will go for a second because of the age, not because of the money. But I think you're at this point in free agency where now you're not trading players because your cap is gone. Does that make sense?
But I think the book is written on DK. He didn't have a good year last year.
He didn't have that good of a year, but I would say
he didn't have a good year at all. Like, you can't. I mean,
when Russell Wilson was traded, that was the time to trade DK. Back at the beginning of free agency. But now that all the teams have spent their money and their capital, now they're in the war room waiting for the draft. No one, teams are looking, all 32 teams, don't get me wrong, but do you think all 32 teams are still sitting going, we got to call every free agent? We got to get in there. Most teams are pretty comfortable right now. That's why things are slow. You just saw, Dallas sign a dude.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
3 weeks to the draft?
Like I said, Dallas just signed a running back that had one carry his entire career. One.
It's almost 3 weeks. It's 20 days till the draft. 20 days from today.
It's gonna start to slow down now, where I think the trade market for him is, in my opinion, over. I think you might get a good, decent trade with him after the draft or a package in the draft. Let's say it's in the second round and somebody wants, a deal to be made. DK could be moved in a deal for Seattle to move into the top of the second, late of the first. They might do it then. But if I'm Seattle, I would hold on to him for now and just wait till the draft and see if anybody offers you in the draft for him.
Okay. So now 2 more questions for you. The quarterbacks in this draft, Willis, Pickett? Mm-hmm. Is it Pickett?
Kenny Pickett,
Ritter,
Matt Corral, Desmond
Corral.
Ritter.
How many of them should and how many of them are? So 2 different questions there. Going to be drafted in the first round, or say mid to late first round.
I think all 4 are going to be drafted in the first round.
Okay, so do you think there's a team that's going to trade up from the second round after their pick in the first round to get one of them, aka like the Ravens did for Lamar Jackson that year, where they picked their guy, but then they said, "Oh, Lamar's still there." They drafted to the last pick in the first round. They traded up and got Lamar. Like, is there a situation where you think teams are going to not pick a quarterback, say in the first 16 picks, but then all of a sudden see them dropping, and will jump into late 20s to pick one of them up?
Also, I will respond to your question. I was reading the draft order. I didn't realize that Kansas City is 29 and 30 now in the draft
because of the Hill
trade. I would say this: if I had to take a guess, I would say you're going to have one potentially go around the Carolina range, top 5, top 6. Seattle, you know what I mean? Those teams, right? Well, DC would make a deal. Probably do a quarterback. The Saints are there. So I see 3 going before the Saints pick at 16.
3 quarterbacks going before 16?
Mm-hmm.
With how deep this wide receiver and defense and cornerback and draft is?
But you have teams that need quarterback help.
See, if I'm Washington, I'm not drafting a quarterback.
But this is what happens every year, okay?
But what I'm saying is you just traded for your quarterback. You're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round.
But I could see
that's a
what
waste
I'm saying
of a
is
pick.
I could see a team moving out of these picks because the wide receiver class is so deep. If you don't get the first 3 dudes, you might as well wait till the second, third round. So what I'm saying is every year we have this discussion. There's only going to be 2 first-round quarterbacks, and there's always 5. It happens every year.
I think all the top 4.
I think they're going to go first round.
Are going to go in the first round. But my thing is I think they're going late first round. I think they drop. I think player teams, because you don't want to. None of them are a top 5 player in this draft. Correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I really like Malik Willis, but I understand where you're coming from. Top 5 of all talent? No.
Okay. Are they top 10 of all talent?
Yeah, I would say.
Really?
Because quarterback gets that bump over the rest because you need that position.
But here's the thing.
So to answer your question, sorry, no, they're not top 10 talent, but teams will do it because it's quarterback.
Okay, so if you're Carolina and you want the quarterback, trade back.
But you don't know if DC's going to take him.
Here's the thing. You trade back. If there's 4 of them, if DC takes a quarterback in the first round, they're stupid.
I'm just using that as an example.
You just traded draft picks to get your quarterback. You're not wasting a first-round pick on a quarterback. You're not. And just like I don't believe the Saints are going to waste a first-round pick on a quarterback because you just signed Jameis.
Yeah.
So right there, yes, I understand that they may need a quarterback, but they're not going to draft one in the first round because then all of a sudden you're ruining Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you're creating talk when there shouldn't be talk.
Or there could be a team that moves into the first round from the second or third rounds to move up and take a quarterback.
But that's what I'm saying. So say Carolina moves from number 6 to number just throw a number out there, like 15 to 20.
Yeah.
You get an extra pick in this year's draft, plus you still keep your first, but you're later, and if you do take a quarterback with that pick, it's not as high where it's not as, what's the word? Like, not, the expectations aren't as high. Like, you take a quarterback in the top 10, like, think about it. Mitchell Trubisky is a decent quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a game changer. I'm not saying he's a franchise quarterback, but he's a decent. I mean, he's 29 and 22 in the NFL on a bad Bears team. Let's be real on that. Badly coached, bad GM, everything. But he was number 2, drafted number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, they traded up for him, and Watson was in that draft. And what was the other quarterback in that draft? There was another quarterback in that draft.
Yeah.
Oh, Mahomes.
Mahomes, yep.
So Kansas City traded
10, right?
up to number 12.
12, that's
and
it.
And Houston traded up to number 10.
Yeah.
And you got Watson and Mahomes, top 5 quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
When they're both playing. And you picked Trubisky at number 2, and you traded the farm for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Trubisky's looked at like he is.
Yeah.
Like he's a bust. He's 29 and 22. It's not great, but
I say, if you think 29-22 is really good, you should see Gardner Minshew's records.
Yeah, but
but I know what you're saying. I'm just giving you a hard time.
It's you and Gardner. I mean, I don't know what pictures this man has of you that you don't want out. So you just, but that's the thing. Like, none of these quarterbacks. The only one that I actually really like, because for 4 years he got better, and his last year, like, was really good, was the kid from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But you got to look at it. Like, I'll look at a quarterback from Cincinnati. Like, I'll look at, is the talent is there, but is the competition there? So, and competition doesn't mean anything, because we've said it before. There's many, top 5 programs, quarterbacks that have been drafted 1 through 5 and are busts.
When you look at Jimmy Garoppolo and Tony Romo, both from Eastern Illinois D3.
Right. Ben Roethlisberger from
Miami of Ohio.
Miami of Ohio. So it's not guaranteed, right? But
Malik Willis is Liberty, right, or something like that.
Yeah, and
he's
that's
D3.
And that's where I look at
D2.
it. And he's got a cannon.
He's a good quarterback.
He's got a cannon, but is he good?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, and I look at college quarterbacks the way I look at NFL. Like, can he read the whole field in a split second?
Yeah.
And it's literally a split second. Can you fit the ball into a dime instead of a quarter?
I think the reason why Ritter, in my opinion, Ritter and Malik Willis are getting a lot more attention is because they are more dual threat quarterbacks. They do a lot more running the ball. And people want that nowadays. However, in my opinion, and it hurts me to say this, Kenny Pickett is the best quarterback in this draft. And he's a Pitt player, and I can't stand saying that. But this man is really good and got better every single year in the Big Ten.
But he won't even go first overall as a quarterback.
He won't go first overall because the rest of the class is deep. What I'm trying to say is I think you're going to get one quarterback that's going to go before 10. And I think it's going to be the Falcons. I think the Falcons are the team with starting Marcus Mariota. They're not doing that. I think they're going to bring in somebody, but I could see the rest of them being 15 later. I could. The Detroit Lions pick at 32. They could take a quarterback.
All right, so if you're the Falcons, you're rebuilding.
They already know that.
Okay. Yeah. This isn't the quarterback class to take a quarterback to rebuild. This is where you stay pat, you build the middle of your team, where you build the offensive line, the defensive line, safety, things like that. And then you hope that next year there's a generational talent where you're that bad and you get the number one pick.
The problem is, I would say that hope doesn't work because you can shit in one hand and hope in the other and see which fills up first.
But what pick are they?
They're pick 8.
8? I'm not picking a quarterback there.
Just
because of where the franchise is.
See,
we know we're 2-3 years away.
I wouldn't, personally for me, I wouldn't pick a quarterback there either. But what I'm saying is when you look at the rest of your team, yes, you could get a decent wide receiver. You could get the best lineman in the draft. But the unfortunate part about it is teams they understand quarterback need. They can look at next year, but the top 2 or 3 cornerbacks could all get hurt next year. So you can't hope for the quarterbacks to be better in the next class when you have one now. Now, could any of these quarterbacks be Mitchell Trubisky? Sure, but any one of these could be Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes almost threw more, literally had a losing record in college pretty much. I'm a West Virginia fan. We played him 4 different times, and he balled on us, but he had 6 touchdowns a game with 5 interceptions. The Patrick Mahomes you see now is not the same one you saw in college. So do I see 4 quarterbacks going top 15? No. But you have Detroit Lions at 32. They could take a quarterback. You could have Tampa Bay at 27. Could they take a quarterback? I'm not saying to start, but if they like one, they could. I don't see them doing it. This is hypothetical,
No,
guys.
because they have the kid from Florida they drafted last year.
I understand that, but you haven't heard nothing about him, whether he's progressing
they
or
said
not.
he was going to start this year if Brady didn't come back.
I understand.
So
you have the Steelers. The Steelers could still take a quarterback. They like Kenny Pickett. They've hosted him twice now in the 30 visits. Saints, they have a second pick. They have 2. You could take a wide receiver at 16. They could take a quarterback at the next one. That's what I'm saying. So you have these later. I agree with you. I think all 4 are going to go first round, but I do see one being top 10, top 11, right in there, in my opinion. Okay. That's just me.
All right.
Sorry, we kind of rambled on that. But the hard part is every year they do this Todd McShay and go, there's only one quarterback top 20. But what you see is teams change their philosophy because they're like, wow, this guy's still there. We have to take him. And that's what ends up happening. They'll lose the Chris Olave. They'll lose these other guys just to get the quarterback to find out that they shouldn't have taken him that early.
Okay. So now my next question is fantasy relevant or not on their new teams?
Okay.
Okay, so this list just came out yesterday.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Fantasy relevant in which way? Do you mean like...
You're going to draft and you're going to play and they're going to make a difference.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not going to. So it's 40 players that either were re-signed or have a new team. Okay, I'm only going with the players that have a new team. Okay. So we're going to start at the quarterback position. Marcus Mariota in Atlanta.
I'm not
fantasy
starting.
relevant?
No.
Okay. Fantasy relevant to spot start for your starter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, Matt Ryan.
Yes.
Okay.
8-team, 12-team league. 10, standard 10.
10 to 10, yeah.
10 if I'm the 10th team to pick a quarterback, I would take Matt Ryan.
Okay. All right. I say no for both of them.
Yeah.
And even like taking a flyer for the bye week.
More than likely Matt Ryan would be a flyer, but if I see everybody else is gone and I'm like, okay, these are the options I have, and like even if Watson is still there, I might take a flyer on Ryan because you still don't know Watson's situation.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Trubisky.
No.
Wentz.
Yeah. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Wentz
yeah.
Wentz, I say yes to Wentz.
But he wouldn't be one of my. If I had the 10th, if I was the last team to pick a quarterback, it'd be Wentz. But I wouldn't. If I was 9 or better, he wouldn't be my options.
I'd pick Wentz as my bench.
Yeah,
because I want to see what the offense does.
Exactly.
And
probably wouldn't be my starter.
So if you're picking 9 or 10, if you're the last person in a 10-team league or second to last person in a 10-team league to pick a quarterback, okay, I would take Wentz as my backup just to see what's going on.
See, if I'm in that situation and I missed out on my quarterback, I missed out on the Daks, the Watsons, all those kind of guys that are fantasy relevant, I would probably take a flyer on Wentz, potentially wait a few rounds, and maybe get a Lawrence potentially at that point and see who I want to start every week.
Okay.
But that's the team that's going non-quarterback till the end of the 15th, 16th round. And there is one of those teams every year that skips quarterback for many rounds.
Okay. Wilson.
Yeah. He's got a lot of weapons. I think for sure he's going to be a top 5 quarterback this year.
Okay.
In fantasy, excuse me.
Yes.
In fantasy.
All right. So one of these guys is staying on his team, but his backfield mate left. But I want to know your opinion on it because he was very touchdown. Sorry. He was very touchdown dependent. We're going to running backs here. James Conner. Number 2 or flex?
2 flex. He's not a 1.
Okay.
2 or flex. More than likely, he'll be in a flex for me.
Okay. Chase Edmonds.
Flex.
Okay. Duke Johnson.
Flex. I'd say Edmonds would be a 2 flex. Sorry, let me repeat that. 2 flex. Duke Johnson flex.
Okay. Raheem Mostert.
Where's he at now? Miami?
Yep.
He's got to be a flex. They have too many mouths to feed.
Because that's the same as Edmonds.
Yeah, it's got to be. But I think Edmond will probably get more. In my opinion, I would give Edmonds the most touches. That's me.
Okay. Now we're going to get – there wasn't very many. Like James White stayed. Rashard Penny stayed.
What about –
J.D. McKissick stayed.
How about this? Is it Melvin Gordon out of Denver?
Yeah, he's negotiating a contract with the Ravens.
So does that make Philip Lindsay is still their starter? No, not Philip Lindsay.
They have J.D. McKissick and Gus Edwards. They
No.
both
Denver.
hurt Denver Williams.
Williams. Does that make him?
Oh, he was fantasy relevant last year.
But would you take him in the second round as a RB1 or 2? If you were going running back first round, like let's say not Zeke, but let's say you're taking CMC or something, would you take him with your running back 2?
Running back 2?
In that kind of all, because Chris Carson was a running back 2 with Russell. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of using that example.
All right, so here's the thing. Without seeing the offense, without seeing what they're going to do, yes, I take Williams as an RB2.
I agree.
I take him as, in a keeper league, he's maybe if you're keeping any one of the top 10 running backs, I think Williams can be there as a top 20 running back.
I agree.
Okay, now, what I think's going to happen is Denver is going to be pass happy. And they're going to think they can win with Russell throwing the ball. And it's going to be a big mistake, my opinion. But I think Russell's at his best when he's running the ball, play action, rolling out, faking the handoff, things like that. But I think he's a top 20 fantasy back.
Yeah.
So now we've got some interesting names here. Devontae Adams as a Raider. Is he still top 5 fantasy wide receiver in the game, even though he's changing teams?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And see, I've been hard on Derek Carr, but he can sling the ball. Yep. I think Derek Carr and him, I'm not calling... Hunter Renfrow, that's who we're talking about.
Yes.
I was not thinking Hunter Renfrow, I'll be honest with you.
No, me neither.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't thinking short wide receivers, in my opinion. But the thing with Derek Carr is I've been hard on him because he's just kind of been average with good hints, but you never hear him as like, Derek Carr's the dude. He doesn't get that hype, so you don't really hear about him much. But then you think about it, like he's constantly a consistent quarterback, and you're giving him, look what he did with Amari Cooper when Amari Cooper showed up more than 80% of the games. Yeah. You get one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in football right now, and not just speed. You get speed, hands, quickness, cutting, everything. Yeah. And I think he's still going to be top 5.
Okay. DJ Chark. Detroit Lions.
DJ Chark. Wide receiver 2?
I'm saying no. I'm saying not even a flex.
Well, I would say on a good day he's wide receiver 2. If you drafted, let's put it this way, if you drafted in a league, you went running back, tight end, which that's one of my things I like to do, running back, tight end. You took a wide receiver, probably not going to have a CeeDee Lamb or a Jamar Chase, definitely won't be there, but let's just say a Godwin is there. DJ Chark, for some people, they would take that as their wide receiver 2. He'd be a flex probably for me.
Okay.
He'd be a flex.
In the league where we have 3 wide receivers, he might be a wide receiver 3.
Yep, which would be a flex in most leagues, but probably wouldn't be a weekly starter. But again, I think a lot of it has to do with Jared Goff too, and with Lions having 2 first-round picks, so they take a quarterback to have some competition there. The Lions are interesting. They really are.
All right, Amari Cooper.
Are we saying, wait, for...
Fantasy relevant.
He's going to have to be. He's going to have to be. I think he's going to get overdrafted, in my opinion. I think he got overdrafted last year with Dallas, personally. He hasn't played a full season in 4 years. He does slow down in games towards the end where he just is on the sideline and you don't know where he went. And that's to say, does Watson play every game? I think you have to put that into huge consideration. Okay. Watson playing in the game, Mark Cooper can be a top 10 wide receiver, easily. But if you don't have Watson and it's Baker... I didn't see Baker with Jarvis and Odell making good plays to wide receivers. That kind of concerns me. But I would say I could potentially still seeing him blindly knowing if I'm going to just assume Watson plays, I could still take him as a wide receiver 1. Okay. I could see it for sure. Right. What about you?
I'm taking it. He's a wide receiver. He's late end 1, high end 2.
Yep, I agree.
So, he's there. Like he's easily draftable.
Easily.
And startable. Mm-hmm. And startable.
I would love for him to be my wide receiver too, hoping I got a stud first one.
If you're in a 10-team league and he's in and it's like standard things where it's 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex. Yeah, he's easily in there as the 2 top 20 wide receivers. Yeah. So this name is interesting because I love this kid. I really do. He hasn't flashed ever, but I really like this kid. Russell Gage in Tampa. Mm-hmm. If if Godwin is not there to begin the season, Gage is somebody that is easily low 2, high 3, or easily a flex in that offense. When Godwin comes back, depending on how he plays, Brady won't forget. Like you have to remember, he fed Evans, Godwin, and Brown. He will feed, Evans, Godwin, and Gage if Gage proves he can be reliable.
Last year, Russell Gage was what was considered that lucky pick in fantasy drafts, just like the year before James Robinson was. Mm-hmm. I could see Russell Gage being the first player back-to-back slept on in fantasy and comes out as a wide receiver too. I think people are going to draft him on their bench, potentially flex. I really do. He'll be 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th round. Probably 8th, 9th, 10th, if I'm being honest. But being in that Antonio Brown role, potentially Godwin role week 1, huge. I mean, this is the thing I'm doing with my team is like, if Gallup's not going to be there, whoever wide receiver 2 becomes for the first 4 weeks with CeeDee Lamb is going to get so much fantasy value because you're not missing your... So, for example, you have Mike Evans in Tampa Bay. You have your wide receiver 1. But if Godwin's not there, if that is Gage, he is a really good wide receiver. I agree with you.
He's a huge upgrade, and he makes... If he pans out, and say he was on the team last year, they beat the Rams. Mm-hmm. They beat the because Brady had nobody to throw to because Evans went down. Like it was awful.
I will say this when it comes to drafting wide receivers.
Didn't you draft Gage?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought you did in the live in the.
Yeah, I drafted him he was like the 18th, 17th. I mean, he was very end because he was technically at the time pretty much wide receiver 2 and 3 on the Falcons.
Yes.
He wasn't even there 2 sometimes.
Yeah.
For me, I think if you're drafting Russell Gage, this is my opinion, if you're drafting Russell Gage to be a wide receiver 2, I think that's too high right now. And the reason I say that is because you're going to be disappointed if Godwin comes back and Godwin and Mike Evans are balling. He's going to be solid for you as a wide receiver 3 with Tom Brady, but I don't think he's going to get you crazy volume. Does that make sense?
If you draft Godwin, you draft Gage.
I agree. That's what you need as handicap.
It's sort of like when people that drafted Mostert drafted the 49ers backup.
Yep.
If you drafted Mixon, you drafted their backup. You
every year I have Zeke, I always take Pollard. You have to.
You play that handcuff.
I will say this one last thing. I don't want to disrespect Tampa Bay because I know anybody who just heard this, when they do listen, is going to go, well, you would have any Bengals wide receiver as your wide receiver 2. You're right. I probably would in some leagues, possibly a flex. The part I worry about is only few teams that can sustainably keep 3 wide receivers as wide receiver 1 and 2.
Boyd's undraftable.
Boyd's undrafted. I understand that, but we're talking a year ago, people drafted all 3 of them.
Yes.
So,
okay.
I would say this year, no. But my point going into this is if you're drafting Russell Gage for your wide receiver 2, I don't think you're going to get wide receiver 2 value all year.
10-team league, Boyd isn't draftable. 12-team league and or 3 wide receiver,
he is.
He's draftable.
Yeah.
So I'll amend that.
Yeah, I like Russell Gage.
I don't want to be crapped on there by people that would be like, what the hell? Now, I would say this. Boyd, to me, right now, is more draftable than, say, the number 2 wide receiver in Philly.
For sure.
Any wide receiver in New York, the Giants.
For sure. I would say he's more draftable than wide receiver 1 in the Ravens right now.
Yeah.
But because of the quarterback
for
play.
me, and that's not being disrespectful, but that's just me saying, but it's sort of like going into the season last year when Gallup was healthy.
Yeah.
All 3 players were considered to be very, top 35.
Yeah.
At the position.
And they all produced top 35 when healthy.
All right, so another big one here, going to a new team, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, he'll be fantasy relevant.
Top 5. So Tyreek Hill, every year he's been in the league, he's been a top 5 fantasy wide receiver.
He'll be top 10.
Top 10. So technically...
He's a second-round pick.
Okay, so he's not a keeper to you then?
No.
Really? So you don't keep Tyreek Hill?
I don't trust Tua yet.
Okay.
So how about this? Most teams are going to go running back first in fantasy. Almost every team, unless you want Kelsey or something, pick 8 or 9. Very few teams are going to take wide receiver in the first round in fantasy. Some do, but most are going to take running back. if you go through...
That was true 2 years ago.
I know, but it's changed a little bit. I understand running back is different. If I'm going to go through my first round running back, I'm not mad that Tyreek Hill would be my wide receiver 1, but I'm likely to take a running back again, in my opinion.
Okay, so
wide receivers deeper again.
Here's the situation. All right, I'm going to name... Okay, so you're a Cowboys fan.
Yep.
On their fantasy team, you have to choose between these 3 for keepers.
For keepers, okay.
Zeke, Jacobs, Hill.
Zeke, Jacobs, Josh Jacobs, and Hill. I have to pick between one of those 3 for a keeper?
Yep. Both of them. You have to pick 2.
If I had to pick 2,
so you're going both running backs? Season? Yeah, you going both running backs, or you going one running back in Hill?
If you're going in that situation, I'm going one running back Hill, and it's probably not Zeke.
Okay, but what I'm saying is like, because you said you were running back, specific.
More than likely running back, but if Hill's there...
now granted, the wide receiver position is so deep.
That's the thing.
And the running back, like I can't say that there is 32 running backs because there's 32 running backs that start in the league.
But you have 5 or 6 teams that are running 2 a game, 3 a game now. You're getting very few bell cows left.
But I look at it as it's very tough. Like running back is very thin because if you have 32 running backs and that start in the league, you might have 25 that are fantasy relevant.
And you might have 10 that are running back 1 if you're lucky. Maybe 5.
Yeah, I'd say 10.
Yeah,
I'd say 10 that you could, because in my opinion, is Zeke a first round pick?
No.
But he's a second round pick
for sure.
Okay, and but is he he's if you're a top 20 running back, you have to start 2.
Yeah.
So if Zeke is your 1, I'm not exactly angry at that.
No, but you want him to be your 2. Like if you get him as your 2, let's say you pick 8 in the first round or pick 9 in a 10-team league, and you happen to, let's say, Derrick Henry won't be there. Let's say CMC somehow fell because of his injuries. Probably also won't be there. Mixon. Let's say Mixon some there at 8.
So if you went, see, in my opinion, Mixon is an upgrade from what he did last year. He was the third best running back.
So where did he normally get? I would say his average draft.
Last year was third round.
So let's say your first pick, let's say you pick 8 or 9, and you get Mixon. I would take Zeke with my second round pick at the turn, pick 14, and I'd be ecstatic about that.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm saying. I don't think Zeke's a first round pick anymore, but you're still going to want to get him if you're halfway through the second and he's there. I think you're dumb not to take someone like that because he still is running back 8, maybe 7, 8, 9, if he's healthy. He wasn't healthy last year. Okay. Again, in air quotes, if Dallas does what I want them to do, it'd be run the piss out of Pollard and Zeke. They won't do that. And the ceiling is Zeke can still be relevant if you run the ball like they did back in the day, if he still can. We don't know that. I still think they're going to throw the shit out of the ball. Pardon my language, guys. I still do. All right, who we got next?
Christian Kirk.
No. Draftable, yes.
Okay.
Flex, wide receiver, too.
Okay.
I'm not taking him first wide receiver. And if I'm drafting terribly and I need a flex, like I need to reach, I think he's a reach for a wide receiver, too. But what could happen, again, is one of these players where you get to round 5 or 6 and he's still there and people go, man, do I take a shot on him? Like you have 2 solid wide receivers. Let's say you're doing the no quarterback method for the late. You're waiting, and you have 2 solid running backs. Let's say you have the Mixon and the Zeke, and then you somehow fell with 2 good wide receivers and a tight end, and you happen to snag a Dalton Schultz or a Dallas Goedert, and you're in round 7 going, I need a flex. No really good running backs. I could see Christian Kirk going there because I think he's going to get a lot of targets from Trevor Lawrence.
I think he's going to be overdrafted.
I think so too. I think even in the 6th, 7th round, it's overdrafted.
But no, what I'm saying is I think he's going to be 3rd, 4th round.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I could see.
I think you're going to see somebody that is in love with him being a number 1 all of a sudden, and a number 1 wide receiver in a bad offense is still a number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be overvalued, but I still think at the end of the year, he's going to, because I'm high right now, my preseason, I'm high on Jacksonville.
Yeah, I am too.
I'm not playoff high,
no,
but I'm high on Jacksonville.
Like I said 2 weeks ago on the podcast, I could see 7, 8 wins out of them.
See, I love Doug Peterson.
I think he's a good coach.
Doug Peterson. I think he's a great coach for what you have.
And part of me still has this feeling where I love Mac Jones. I gave him hell because Mark's Patriots fan. I mean, in his heart still. Grew up in the area. I know you're a Bengals fan. And I gave Mac Jones hell. He's a stud. But part of me still does not think There's no way that Trevor Lawrence is a bum. There's
No.
still something in him. He needs the right coach, and people are going to go, wow, his first year was really bad because of Urban Meyer, that I could really see him having that year 2 Burrow rebound, that year 2 Justin Herbert rebound, and people go, I still don't think he has the weapons, and if I'm Jacksonville, I know they're probably not, they're going to take that Hutchinson or something like that, but you could still get, I know they have pick 1, but like just another solid wide receiver with their later picks, like they could add so much more talent to that team and be right there. Like I almost wish they didn't have pick 1 and they'd pick 5 or 6, take the best wide receiver. But where you are at pick 1, you have to take the best player on the board. And is that a wide receiver?
I almost take that kid. I love the kid from Notre Dame, the safety.
Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, like
I love him. Like
he's great.
I think he should be. I mean, if you don't need Hutchinson, to me is going to be.
I like Thibodeau too, but I still think they're the best players on the board. But a few years ago, they'd have been a top 10 player on the board. Does that make sense?
I'm going to say this: Hamilton is going to be the best defensive player to come out of this draft.
I could see it.
And I love that kid from Georgia too, the defensive tackle. I think
He's
he
a
is.
DT. So, but my only thing with Christian Kirk is I think people are going to draft him because everybody in their heart knows what happened with Trevor Lawrence last year isn't what you expect to see. You expect to see 38, 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns. Like, you know it's coming, and you want a weapon of his offense, especially James Robinson and the kid he played with. I always forget, Etienne. Etienne will be back and healthy. Like, you talk about saying hike, and your back 2 running backs are those 2 guys, and you have Christian Kirk. Like, I know it's only 1 wide receiver, and they have a few other guys we don't really know a whole lot about, but, like, I feel like there's some volume there. Does that make sense? I feel like there's something to be bought in that offense if you're in fantasy, but I think it's more you hope. Again, hope in one hand, shit in the other. You hope it works.
All right. Devontae Parker, new, traded to the Patriots. This is new. This happened this week. But Devontae Parker.
Wide receiver. I think you'd be happy to have him as your flex. But I think you'd be happy as your flex.
Bench. I will draft him for bench, for depth. I'm not going to draft any Patriot wide receiver to start.
You don't think so?
No.
You can't draft a Patriots running back either.
Oh, yeah, you can. Damian Harris is freaking dirty.
I know, but they share the ball so much, he just gets a...
He is dirty, and he earned the number 1. Now, you have Stevenson there, too. But
Is James White still there?
Yeah, he's their third down.
So my point is, has there ever been a fantasy, yes, relevant, but has there ever been an RB1, 2 in pretty much in history of Bill Belichick being the coach where they really 30 carry one dude a game, like 25? No, it's never happened.
Yeah.
Who?
Corey Dillon. They rode Corey Dillon to the Super Bowl.
10 years ago? But that's what I'm saying.
If fantasy relevant in the Bill Belichick era, you just
right.
asked.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, saying you're RB1, it just... Someone's getting arrested.
Yeah,
you heard that car fly by? Now here comes the cop. So my point is with the Patriots, I think they're going to be a really good team, and we know this. They're going to be a very valuable team, but I think you're going to get a lot of players that remind you of the backfield for 49ers. Who's the guy? Like, you know it's Damian Harris. You know that. But is he an RB1? RB2?
No, I mean, but you don't.
I think you don't know what kind of offense the Patriots are going to use. Mac Jones has the ability to make Devontae Parker a wide receiver too. But last year, they had a mess at the wide receiver position. Everybody seemed like they all had 40 catches, but they had 20 people with 40 catches.
Yeah.
And how many different heads did they bring in a year? They started like 18 different wide receivers. That was kind of my thing, and they still found a way to make the playoffs. Yeah. I'd say right now, flex on a high note. But you'd want to have him on your team. All right. I think he has potential.
Zach Pascal.
Where did he go?
He went from Indianapolis to Philly.
No, bench.
Okay.
Flex, bench. I mean, I think he's going to be relevant, but here's the problem. Does Philly take a top wide receiver in this draft? In the first round, they have 2 picks now.
No, they have 2 picks now.
So they have 2. I know, but we're not going to get into that. Joey's not here. But let's say they have 2 first picks. I would say they're probably not taking a wide receiver now, but if they do, Pascal's a bench at best.
Okay. Allen Robinson for the Rams.
I think he's going to be big, dude. I do.
I mean, he's a number 1 wide receiver, and he's all of a sudden going to go to a team that's number 2. But I think he's the type of body and the type of skill set that Matt Stafford loves. And that's why Odell thrived with Matt Stafford.
Robert Woods thrived.
But Allen Robinson's a lot bigger than both of them.
I know.
And I think Allen Robinson, he's never going to get the due he's deserved unless he pops off this year and people remember what he was.
How about we extend an olive branch? Do we expect Cooper Kupp to be that crazy again this year?
Yes.
You do. You don't expect a little drop-off. Wide receiver 4 to 5?
No.
You expect...
And you know why? Because the offense that McVay has built, it's the same thing. And again, people are, you always say, oh, you compared him to Edelman. Okay, Edelman wasn't guardable in New England. Yeah. He wasn't. And because it's the position that you put the wide receiver in. And it pisses Nate off because he's like, Cooper Kupp isn't even that good. He's always up against linebackers. That is smart coaching.
Yeah, it's smart coaching.
And if you do what you're supposed to do, you run the route you're supposed to run, and you catch the ball and you run with it, that's all they're asking you to do. It doesn't mean that you're not a good wide receiver. It just means that the coaching staff is smart.
Yeah.
Now, he's only going to get better because Allen Robinson is, I feel, at this point in time, better than Odell.
Yeah.
And I just feel this offense is going to be better the second year in Matt Stafford. And I think that with Cam Akers being 100% healthy this year, I think this offense is going to be even scarier than it was last year.
I think if you can get you can get Allen Robinson as your wide receiver 2 in fantasy football, you're doing something right, in my opinion. I think he's easily wide receiver 2. I think he could have pace to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver.
Easy. If he stays healthy, he's a 1,000-yard wide receiver.
They're going to have two of them, and I think
not 1,000 yards, he has over 10 touchdowns.
I was going to say that, one or the other, and both of them are. If you have 1,000 yards or 10 touchdowns, you're wide receiver 1. Mm-hmm. Sorry, you really are. But I can't go into the preseason saying the Rams will have 2 wide receiver 1s. When's the last time a team? When's the last time?
Wide receiver's deep. Okay, it's very deep. But if I have him, I'm going for him as my number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah. I want to search something real quick because now I want to know. I was going to say, when's the last time a team's had 2 top 10 wide receivers in fantasy?
Oh, God. Wide receivers, though, or pass catchers?
Pass catchers.
You're looking at Kansas City, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
How about, I'm just doing wide receiver now.
Wide receiver, you're looking at, I'm going to say yes.
I don't see anything here. I know, right? I was just thinking.
Top 10. That's some research we'd have to do.
So, excuse me. Let me repeat. I have to say top 10 because we're assuming 10-team league. But 2 wide receiver 1s. Because if we assume Cooper Kupp stays the same, wide receiver 1, we know that. And wide receiver 1 in the league, not just fantasy. And Cooper, let's say Allen Robinson has 10 touchdowns and or 1,000 yards. That's a wide receiver 1. They're going to have 2 of them this year.
Yep.
That seems right now going into it saying, would you take Allen?
But here's the thing. You're talking about 2,000-yard wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Both had over 1,000 yards. Yep. Chase had over 10 touchdowns. Higgins did not have 10 touchdowns. But he had over 1,000 yards.
And he finished as wide receiver 20, top 20.
Right.
In fantasy last year.
In fantasy. Mm-hmm. So, and right now he's being ranked as wide receiver 25.
Yeah.
Which is higher than what I believe Allen Robinson is. But I would hope that changes. I'm a huge Allen Robinson fan.
Yeah, we all have
he was
been
in Jacksonville. But my thing is this, like, he is that. I pick Allen Robinson over T. Higgins.
Yeah.
I
think they go in the same round, though.
Around the same time.
The same time, within the 10 picks of each other. But I could see it.
All right, so now this is a very interesting name. He signed a 1-year deal. They just got rid of his competition.
Mm-hmm.
Juju. So while you're thinking, Juju's not a number 1 wide receiver. Juju's not a number 1. When they made him the number 1 wide receiver in Pittsburgh, he not crumbled, but he didn't do what he was supposed to do. He's going to be drafted, I feel, as a wide receiver 1. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 this year, strictly based off of the fact of who's throwing him the ball.
So every year that Patrick Mahomes has been a quarterback in fantasy, and I'm just spitballing this because someone's probably going to come back and say you were wrong, and you may even know this. Every year someone says you have to take Byron Pringle. You have to take Sammy Watkins. You have to take the other guy, Demarcus Robinson. None of them have panned out at all in fantasy, really.
Not in fantasy, no, but that's with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce.
I understand.
Now all you have is Travis Kelce.
So the other thing is they also have 2 first-round picks to bring in other players. I could see him being a wide receiver 2, not a 1. I don't see it.
Not a 1.
I agree. I'm agreeing with you.
People will draft him thinking he's going to be Tyreek Hill.
He won't be.
And he won't. But I could see him easily being a wide receiver 2.
I could see him being a wide receiver 2 with 1 upside. But I think you're going to get a point that with this wide receiver deep class.
I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 with flex.
Downside.
With flex or bench downside.
So,
yeah.
But I also think if the speed of this draft, the top 10 wide receivers in this draft are faster than any other draft class in NFL history. I think what you're looking at is wide receivers here that with 2 first-round picks, pick 25 and 26, you could see Kansas City potentially taking one of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers that are still there and putting them in that wide receiver 2 route and having that fast little wide receiver again and being wide open with hands because there's some good wide receivers.
So,
which is going to take away from Juju.
So let me ask you this. More likely to happen, okay, with Juju.
Mm-hmm.
Week 1 starter and starter for the rest of the season. Starting him in week 1 and never starting him again. Or starting him less than half the season. What is more likely to happen? Because I feel week 1, no matter what, he's in a starting lineup.
As wide receiver 1?
Or 2.
I agree.
So does he stay in the starting lineup for the whole season? Or is he out of your starting lineup for at least half the season?
What's more? Question.
Yeah, what's more likely to happen? See, this is why we shouldn't go in scripted because I'm good at these questions.
I say you have some great questions. I think what I will say is for me a lot has to depend on the draft still. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're going to try to bring in that Colts wide receiver who's been injured his whole career. Are they going to? But off the top of my head, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he's going to start people's first few weeks, but then you're going to start moving up when Gallup comes back. You're going to move up when Buccaneers. I just thought of his name. Godwin comes back. I think you're going to find out he's still wide receiver 2 or 3, but you're going to have people on your bench outperforming Juju.
Okay.
But the olive branch to that is it's really hard to imagine not starting the best wide receiver on the team for the Chiefs with Mahomes. You know what I mean? Like he's going to have to throw it to someone else. He can't just throw it to Kelce, which he can. He can have 1,500 yards, but someone's going to be relevant in that offense.
Okay.
So
all right. James Washington. Went from Pittsburgh to Dallas.
Bench.
Okay.
Bench with flex upside. I'm probably going to try to draft him because I think he has potential the first few weeks. But, again, they had 3 wide receivers do really well for Dallas last year, right? But Gallup was never healthy, in my opinion, right? He missed a lot of time. I haven't watched any Dallas training camp. I don't know what they've done in the draft, right? It hasn't happened. My sources indicate they're going to throw the ball again. And my sources are, in quotations, my sources I'm going to say they're going to throw the ball again. I think he's flex easily. But I probably am going to, if someone takes him, I'm not going to be pissed like they do when they take CD or Amari over the years. I'm like, yeah, take him.
Okay.
He's only on a 1-year deal. That tells me they really don't have a lot of faith in him, really.
Okay. Drops the ball too much. They're going to throw it to him a lot, but I don't trust Dak's deep ball. And I don't trust the kid's hands, so I don't think he's – I'm not looking at him to draft.
No, I'm not looking at him to draft. I think if you can get him one of your last few rounds, I think if you need a wide receiver, 7. Like, seriously, like you can have, 8? If you're looking at him for a lucky bench role, if you're lucky, I think you take him. But I think the problem is you have –
Do you take him or a backup QB?
When I take it, I always take a backup QB.
Oh, okay. You're one of those? Mm-hmm. All right. Backup tight end?
I'd probably take a backup tight end, for sure.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to probably have 2 tight ends before I have my wide receiver 4 or 5.
Okay.
That's just me, because I start back. If I can get two top 10 tight ends by the 5th or 6th round, I'm going to do it and start one of my flex. I do every year. My flex has been tight ends a lot.
I'm not even going to try to say that sentence, because that seemed like a very hard sentence
It was. I think I might have had a stroke.
So these 2 wide receivers are right up your alley. So James Washington went to Dallas. This is an ex-Dallas wide receiver, Cedric Wilson.
Cedric Wilson went to
Miami.
I like Cedric Wilson a lot, but I would say bench as well. I'm not looking at him when they have Tyreek Hill.
Would you rather draft Washington or Wilson?
I would rather draft Washington.
Okay.
Personally, for me, it's the quarterback. I think Dak Prescott's still a much better quarterback than Tua is.
Okay.
And that has a lot to do with it. So.
All right. I don't draft either one. Just off
Yeah.
the thing. Now, if again, like you said, I need a player.
Yeah.
Because I need to fill my roster.
Let's say you take your kicker around early, like I do, and then you stuck with the weirdest players left. That's when I would take a James Washington, possibly a Cedric Wilson.
Okay. Robert Woods, Tennessee.
I think he's draftable. I do. Wide receiver, I want to say 2.
Okay.
I take him as a 2.
We said the same thing about Julio last year going to Tennessee. We said that was going to be the best wide receiver.
Julio was hurt too, wasn't he?
Yeah, but we also said it was going to be the best wide receiver.
They said he had a nagging injury all year.
We said, and I believe everybody said, was going to be the best wide receiver duo in the league.
And it wasn't.
And not even close.
No.
I just don't know if Tannehill and that offense has it in them to have 2 relevant pass catching
Would you flex
options.
him?
Yeah, he's Robert Woods.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's in my starting lineup to start the season. Let's put it that way. He's and the same thing with Juju. But does he start the rest of the season, or does he sit on your bench half the season? That's where I'm at with both of them. Like, I can find it hard in my soul to say draft them 5th, 6th round. I think that's too high but if you hit on them and you draft them in the 5th, 6th round, you're looking like the genius. But if you miss on them, you're like, damn, who didn't I draft in the 5th round that I drafted him instead? And you're like, oh, damn, he's a top 10 wide receiver.
So here's my thing. 2 questions then. I have 2 players. And do you have any more players?
We're going to 2 tight ends.
All right. Well, I will do these 2 real fast since we're getting close here, but I do want to do those 2 players too.
Oh, there's more, but no.
Okay.
We won't do tight end. We'll save tight end. So ask your question.
So, is in your opinion Brandon Cooks draftable?
Yes, Brandon Cooks is a wide receiver 1.
You think so? I think so too. I think
Nate has changed my mind, and you're
even with Davis Mills.
He was a wide receiver 1
with David Mills.
Was he wide receiver 1? I don't think he was top 10.
No, I think he was probably, I would say somewhere
He's
around.
in my starting lineup, and I go for him in the first few rounds.
Yeah, yes. I do too. And then where we've always drafted this quarterback, based off the changes that have just happened, would you move, in fantasy, this is going to be hard for you, would you move a Russell, a Lamar, a Kyler Murray, a Dak in front of Aaron Rodgers? Because of the loss of Devontae Adams and now no real wide receivers on that team. Does that change you from having to get Aaron Rodgers now? And would you go after a player like Tua instead?
No.
Okay.
Tua, no. Lamar.
Jalen Hurts?
No.
Okay. Kyler Murray?
No.
Dak Prescott?
Yes. Yeah, but I think you're looking for Dak ahead of Rodgers. I think Dak was above Rodgers last year too.
But some people would have argued that. So what about Stafford?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of my question.
But here's the thing. It's kind of unfair the way you posed the question.
Okay.
Okay, because every one you named was a dual threat.
Okay. Well, that's why I said Matthew Stafford.
Right, so
I was going down my list of other quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford.
Hurts, Lamar, Kyler almost get you more points with their feet than they do with their hand.
Joe Burrow.
Oh, easy. Burrow and Herbert are...
Easily. So that's what I'm saying. And Dak's not a dual threat anymore. He doesn't run like he used to. So he's not the same. But I'm just naming Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So you're talking Aaron Rodgers is quarterback 7, 6 right now? And that Russell Wilson, again, doesn't run as much as he used to.
But that offense...
I know.
And the wide receiver... See, I'm not...
Mac Jones?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
I just think this is an interesting point because I thought about this on the way here.
But how far down do you drop Mahomes
for
losing Hill?
Mahomes at least still has Kelsey. That's the thing. I know.
But that's like... That's the question though. Like, so you're dropping Rodgers because he doesn't have a wide receiver. Now, my thing is this. I think they're taking both their picks in the first round. They're going to draft wide receivers.
I think so, too.
Either that or they're going to package both of them, move up, and take one of the studs.
Yeah.
Which, that's just in my gut that I think they're doing. But at the same time, it's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He's going to put up the numbers regardless
of who he's throwing to.
I don't think the numbers are going to be the same. Like, it's going to be interesting.
I still think he's going to have less than 5 interceptions, probably.
Yeah.
He's still going to have the numbers. But what I'm saying is losing that number 1 like that, because a lot of people go, well, it's always been Rodgers and it's always been Devontae Adams. But when it's been Kansas City, at least they've had Kelsey. At least, he had another weapon. So my point is, do you see them being more run heavy? Do you see
I see
two relevant running backs?
I see Dillon and Jones being very
RB1 and 2.
heavily used. But it's an interesting question. For me, Stafford, Brady, Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow. I guess you got to throw Dak in there.
Kyler?
No.
What about Mahomes? What about
Josh Allen?
I forgot about Josh Allen. So we're at 6 now. What about Lamar? Fantasy.
No.
It's fantasy. Not our feelings.
He wasn't top 10. I mean, even before he got hurt, he wasn't top 10, I don't believe.
He was probably right on the edge. Derek Carr?
No.
That's what I'm saying, dude. This is such a hard one. I thought about this earlier today. I was like, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I want you to put that in the group text. I want you to ask these guys, because it's really hard to answer that question. But is he draftable as a QB1? Yes, but he's not the third quarterback or fourth quarterback or fifth quarterback drafted like he has been.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't draft him where he's been drafted. If I see him so in one of the leagues we were in, it's kind of funny. Xander picked Dak, I believe in the 10th or 11th round.
Yeah.
And he's sort of it's a no-brainer at this point.
Exactly.
If Rodgers is there,
you're absolutely
taking him. But I don't see that happening. I just see us as you not wanting, why he wasn't taken, I don't know. I think Justin had a quarterback as a keeper. No, Justin didn't. No, he took Kyler early.
I didn't take him because I was waiting on quarterback to see if he was there. But remember, I traded my one 9th round pick for a deal, so I had to wait 2 whole rounds, and he was gone before I got him. I was hoping he fell.
It was ridiculous how far he fell.
Yeah.
And then it was Xander's okay, well, this is dumb. I'm going to take him. So I couldn't. But it's a good question. Yeah, I'm not taking him. I'm not taking him above Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, or Brady. When you get into the Stafford, Lamar,
if you're sitting there,
Kyler,
if Kyler, Dak, Lamar, and Stafford and Rodgers are all sitting there, who are you leaning towards?
Who am I leaning towards?
Yeah. Is it Rodgers over all those guys? Dak, Stafford, Derek Carr, obviously, Kyler, Lamar.
Stafford. I'm leaning towards Stafford.
I agree. I think that's a solid choice.
I'm leaning towards Stafford, but Rodgers is number 2.
Okay, that's fair.
Again, I'm not a fan of what Dallas does.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what Dallas does.
We don't either.
I think losing Cooper and not having a healthy number 2 going into the season is going to be interesting. And I don't trust that offense. Lamar, he's going to get you with his legs. He does throw the ball. You look at the stats, they're there. Hurts, you look at the stats, they're there. They're fantasy relevant quarterbacks, but I'm not taking them over Rodgers.
That's a deal. All right. I'll ask it in the group. They'll probably, I don't know when I'm going to upload this, but hopefully we'll have more answers next week because we're getting close to the draft. We're still a few months away from fantasy, but we'll definitely have more fantasy talk the next few weeks and months because it's ramping up.
And maybe somebody can send me a link to do some mock drafts so I can get used to some of these names, so I can see what's going on.
Yeah.
And we could talk draft next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully Nate and Logan or somebody can come on next week to give me some insight on their team.
And soon I'm going to make a post in the A.D.D show about the A.D.D show draft, the fantasy league, because we do the league every year.
Yeah.
We're going to do it again, 10. If people want to, if we have 2 extra, I'd love to do 12. That doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, it's going to be new people, even if it's the same people that were in it last year.
Everybody's team is restarting. Yep.
We're restarting. We'll have everybody, just message us, I'm in, and we'll put you in. And other than that, hopefully some news pops off. Opening day was this week, yesterday and today.
Yep. I think the Orioles are playing right now, aren't they?
Yeah, it was 1-1 in the 8th when we started the recording.
Yeah.
ESPN doesn't like loading out in the garage, but it's, Other than that,
Other
we're
than
good
that,
to
guys, have a great weekend. See you guys.